The diesel engine of the old Isuzu Matatu groaned like a weary beast as it maneuvered through the chaotic ballet of Nairobi's morning rush hour. Inside, the air was a thick tapestry of smells, damp earth from the previous night's rain, the faint scent of roasting maize wafting through the open windows, and the overwhelming aroma of Kawangware, the dust that defines the city's soul. For Kamau, this bus was a daily crucible. He sat in the very back, his knees pressed against the rusted metal of the seat in front of him, clutching a worn leather satchel that contained everything he owned of value, a few cracked textbooks and a notebook filled with architectural sketches of buildings he hoped to one day build. He was a son of the soil, hailing from the narrow, winding alleys of Kawangware where water was a luxury and silence was a myth. Every morning, he boarded the Route 46 Matatu, his ears ringing with the loud, rhythmic thumping of gengitone music that vibrated through the floorboards, shaking his very bones. Then there was Zara. She usually boarded 3 stops later, at the edge of the leafy suburbs where the air felt cooler and the trees grew tall enough to hide the scars of the city. When she stepped onto the Matatu, the atmosphere seemed to shift, though most commuters were too buried in their phones or their miseries to notice. She didn't belong in a Matatu, her family owned 2 SUVs and a driver named Samuel. Yet, here she was, wearing a pristine University of Nairobi hoodie and carrying a scent of vanilla and expensive laundry detergent that fought valiantly against the exhaust fumes. She chose the bus because she was tired of the gilded cage of her father's wealth, tired of the sterile silence of the backseat of a Range Rover where the world was seen through tinted glass. She wanted to feel the pulse of the city, even if it meant risking her designer jeans on the jagged edges of a torn seat. Their eyes first met during a particularly violent swerve as the driver tried to overtake a vegetable cart. Zara stumbled, her hand catching Kamau's shoulder for stability. The contact was brief, but it felt like a static shock. She muttered a quick apology, her voice smooth and polished, a stark contrast to the rough, melodic shunk that filled the bus. Kamau simply nodded, his face a mask of practiced indifference. He knew her type, the slay queens of the private wings who looked at people like him as part of the urban scenery, no different from the graffiti on the walls. But Zara didn't look away. She noticed the ink stains on his fingers and the way his eyes darted back to his sketchbook the moment she found her balance. She saw a hunger in him that she recognized in her own reflection, a desire for something beyond the roles they were assigned by birth. The days turned into weeks, and the Matatu became their shared sanctuary. In the cramped, vibrating space of the bus, the social barriers of Nairobi began to fray at the edges. It started with a shared laugh when a conductor, a man with a voice like gravel, engaged in a heated, hilarious debate with a passenger over a 5-shilling coin. The absurdity of the situation broke the ice. Zara leaned over, her eyes sparkling. "Does he really think he's going to win that argument?" she whispered. Kamau looked up, surprised by her initiative. "In this city, 5 shillings is the difference between walking and riding. He'll fight for it like it's a gold mine," he replied. His voice was deeper than she expected, grounded and resonant. That was the first stitch in the fabric of their connection. They began to talk, or rather, they began to navigate the vast ocean of their differences. Kamau told her about Kawangware, not the poverty the news liked to highlight, but the community, the way the mamas at the market would hold your baby while you shopped, and the way the sunset looked when it hit the corrugated iron roofs, turning the slum into a sea of burning gold. Zara listened with an intensity that unnerved him. In return, she spoke of the loneliness of her world, the pressure to marry a suitable man from a good family, and the way her parents' expectations felt like a velvet noose. "They see my future as a series of mergers and acquisitions," she said one rainy afternoon as the bus crawled through the sludge of Uhuru Highway. "I just want to design gardens. I want to plant things that grow regardless of who owns the land." Conflict, however, was inevitable. It came on a day when Kamau was feeling the weight of his reality. His tuition was overdue, and his father's carpentry shop had been flooded. When Zara complained about her slow Wi-Fi and how it was literally ruining her life, Kamau snapped. The bitterness he had been suppressing boiled over. "You have no idea what a ruined life looks like," he said, his voice a low hiss that cut through the bass of the music. "You play at being one of us for an hour a day, then you go back to your mansion where the water always runs and the lights never flicker. This isn't a lifestyle choice for me, Zara. It's survival. Your struggles are insults to people who actually have them." The silence that followed was heavier than the Nairobi humidity. Zara flinched as if he had struck her. She didn't argue, she didn't defend herself. She simply stared at the window at the blood grey of the city. For the next 3 days, she didn't board the matatu. Kamau told himself he didn't care. He told himself the bus felt bigger, more comfortable without her taking up space with her vanilla scent and her naive questions. But the sketches in his notebook remained unfinished. The city felt flatter, the colors more muted. He realized that her presence had become the highlight of his day, a window into a world he had always resented but now wanted to understand through her eyes. On the 4th day, she was there. She looked tired, her eyes slightly shadowed. She sat next to him without a word. As the bus lurched forward, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small, potted succulent. "I bought this," she said softly. "It's a desert rose. It grows in the harshest conditions, with very little water, but it still blooms. I realized I was being blind, Kamau. I can't change where I come from, and I can't fully understand your struggle, but I can choose to see it. I can choose to learn." Kamau looked at the small plant, its green leaves defiant against the grime of the matatu. He felt a lump in his throat. He reached out and touched a leaf, his rough finger brushing against her hand. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I shouldn't have used my pain as a weapon against you." From that moment, their relationship shifted from intellectual curiosity to something deeper, something visceral. They began to meet outside the bus, though cautiously. They walked through the city market, inhaling the scent of fresh lilies and butchered meat, a sensory explosion that felt like the heart of Kenya itself. They ate roasted maize from street vendors, the charred kernel salty and sweet. Kamau showed her his world, not as a victim, but as a guide. He took her to a hilltop overlooking the city where the lights of Nairobi twinkled like fallen stars. "From here, you can't tell which lights belong to the mansions and which belong to the shacks," he remarked. Zara leaned her head on his shoulder. "Maybe that's how we should look at people," she said. The city, however, had a way of reminding them of the walls they were trying to climb. One evening, Zara's brother, driving a sleek Mercedes, spotted her standing at a bus stop with Kamau. The confrontation was ugly. Her brother spoke to Kamau as if he were a beggar, tossing insults about opportunists and thugs. He dragged Zara toward the car, his face contorted with class-based rage. Kamau stood his ground, his fist clenched, but he didn't strike. He saw the terror in Zara's eyes, not for herself, but for him. She knew that in a clash between their words, the law and the power would always side with the Mercedes, never the Matatu. That night, Kamau sat in his small room, the sound of rain drumming a frantic rhythm on the roof. He felt the familiar sting of inadequacy. Who was he to think he could bridge the gap? He was a boy from the mud trying to reach for a star. But then he remembered her words about the desert rose. He remembered the way she looked at his sketches, not with pity, but with genuine awe. He realized that love wasn't about the absence of barriers, it was about the courage to dismantle them, brick by brick, even when the world told you to keep them high. The next morning, he waited at their usual stop. He wasn't sure she would come. He watched the matatus fly by, their colorful maniacs and neon lights a blur of motion. When the Route 46 bus finally pulled up, the door hissed open, and there she was. She was disheveled, her hair uncharacteristically messy, and she was carrying a large suitcase. She stepped off the bus before it even reached her stop, running toward him. "I left," she panted, her face flushed. "I told them I'm not a project or a trophy. I'm a person. I have my own savings, and I have my own dreams." Kamau took the suitcase from her, his heart racing. "It won't be easy, Zara. My world isn't a romantic story. It's hard work and long lines and sometimes having nothing but tea for dinner." Zara smiled, a bright, fierce expression that mirrored the rising sun hitting the Nairobi skyline. "I've had enough of easy," she said. "I want something real. I want to build those gardens, Kamau. And I want you to build the houses that stand next to them." As they boarded the next matatu together, the conductor yelled out for more passengers, his voice a rhythmic chant that signaled the start of another day. They squeezed into the back seat, shoulder to shoulder, as the music kicked in, a heavy, soulful beat that seemed to pulse with the very blood of the city. The bus jolted forward, weaving through the traffic, a vibrant, chaotic vessel carrying two souls who had decided that the view from the window was less important than the person sitting next to them. In the heart of Nairobi, amidst the smoke and the shouting and the endless hustle, they had found a truth that transcended the silver spoons and the wooden bowls. They found that love wasn't a destination you reached in a fancy car, it was the journey you took on a crowded bus, holding on to each other as the road got bumpy, leaning into the curves, and never letting go until you reached a place where the only thing that mattered was the light in each other's eyes. The Matatu roared on, a speck of color in the vast urban landscape, carrying a future that they would build with their own 4 hands, fueled by the audacity of a dream born on the dusty streets of a city that never sleeps. They were no longer the rich girl and the poor boy, they were simply two dreamers, riding the rhythm of the Nairobi streets toward a horizon that belonged to them and them alone. If you enjoyed the story, learned something, and watched till the end, please do us a small favor by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It's a small favor from you, but it would really mean a lot to us. Also drop your thoughts in the comment section, I will be reading every one of them. Thanks for watching, until next time my friends.